Monday, everyone, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges. Subscribe to us wherever you listen. Mostly YouTube, please.
Don't pirate this show, okay? I don't want to hear anybody trying to get our show on some of those websites, right?
Yeah. Sure. And make sure you read the scoring criteria.
You always hear about everybody getting the pirate UFC feeds. Like, no, they're not doing pirate CSJ feed. We need all that sweet ad money.
Yeah.
Because you hear all these sweet ads during our show. Dan, how much money have we made on this show since we started 4 years ago?
How much money have we made?
Yeah. How much money have we made? Let's say, like counting all expenses in that too.
Oh, we're definitely negative 1,100 maybe?
Negative 1,100? Okay. That sounds right.
Yeah, about that.
I'd buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Don't give us money. Dan, it's a busy week.
Yeah.
We had not that crazy amount of rounds that we're going to be talking about. It's like a normal amount of rounds we're going to be talking of a UFC 298, but I mean, things happen. This was a big eventful week.
This was a good week.
As far as the
good
happenings out in Anaheim, California.
The happenings.
The
yeah.
happenings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what they say. That's what the kids say. Just look it up on Urban Dictionary. We got a new champ, man.
We do. We got another new champ, right?
Mm-hmm. This completes the utter full turnaround in new champions in the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Our longest standing champion is now Leon Edwards, who became the champ on August 20th, 2022. Literally almost exactly a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Pretty crazy.
It's not that you couldn't see Ilia Topuria beating Alexander Volkanovski here. The odds were very close here. This is the closest odds that we had seen since Volkanovski took over. But having said that, I really felt pretty decent as time went on during the week that we were going to see Volkanovski get through Topuria. I thought maybe this is a little bit of a step up. Maybe it's just a little too much. Volkanovski looked very relaxed. He seemed like he was like, okay, I'm definitely going to get through that over 35 curse. Old man Volk is going to do it. And it very much did not happen. Even though he won the first round.
He did win the first one.
On alt cards, we're not going to be talking about that one. There's no contested round there. But man, that was really impressive with Topuria. I think just the fact that he was able to get it exactly where he wanted to get Volk up against that cage. Against the fence is bad news for Volk. He's got to stay off that. Yeah,
Topuria was a savage.
He was. The one thing that kind of, I don't know if it's troubling, but it's confusing. Like Topuria sends all these messages out like, oh, I want to fight Conor McGregor in the Real Madrid soccer stadium in Spain. He has no interest in any of these contenders. He's like down on the idea of fighting Volkanovski in an immediate rematch. He kind of lukewarmed up to it during the media availability after the win. It's kind of like, oh, he's a really nice guy. I like him. You know, maybe I'll get to give it to him. But he kind of seems like very ambivalent to fighting almost anyone next. So the question I have for you is, what do you think about the fact that he just doesn't seem hungry to be like, all right, let's get in there and just get another guy out there? It seems like he's going to take his time with his reign, be a little more finicky.
Well, he knows Max Holloway is waiting in the wind.
But he doesn't even think he should be fighting Max.
Well, you know what? New champs do not get to decide who they fight. You're told who you're
Dana
fighting.
said that too, basically.
You're told who you're fighting, and that's who you're fighting when you're fighting. You're the champ. That's it. They line them up in front of you, you knock them down if you want to keep being the champ. That's how it is. I can't believe they rushed this UFC 300 announcement. Pereira, Hill, fine fight, but I can improve that card so much.
Oh, okay. You were talking about this yesterday. I didn't hear where this went. Well, how can you improve UFC 300?
Easy.
Okay.
Bobby Green, find a new opponent. Jim Miller versus Justin Gaethje for the BMF title.
Yes.
And now Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria for the 45 title. There's your headliner.
I don't see Topuria being as willing as Volk was to just step in real quick on short notice.
It's not that quick. He's got like 8 weeks. He's good. He's a champ. Get in there. They're not going to get to Spain any quicker. And he's going to have to fight Max before he gets. He can't sit out 18 months before they finally get to Spain.
So you think it should be Holloway next?
Holloway next.
I mean, I know you. Let's pretend that maybe the UFC is going to decline your suggestion.
They shouldn't, but go ahead.
If they do that, and let's say whatever I guess happens with Holloway, because it's 155 pounds anyway, it's not really in the same ballpark here. Would you rather see Topuria against Holloway, or would you rather see the rematch against Volkanovski?
Now let Volk recover. He got knocked out brutally twice in the past 5 months. Let his brain recover.
But let's say, for example, that Ilia Topuria doesn't want to fight until the second half of the year.
Still, hold off on Volk.
Okay. I'm the other way. I'm the other way on that. I think a dominant champion like Volkanovski, who did the UFC several favors over the years, especially in October, taking that fight on 13 days notice when he'd been drinking every day.
This is for Volk. I don't got no issue with him getting another rematch for his next fight. It doesn't have to be Topuria's next fight though.
I see. So you're thinking almost the same sort of setup as we might see with Israel Adesanya, who's been out, and maybe he'll step in and get a title shot when he does decide to come back, even as the division moved on.
I would rather Volk take a break.
I don't dislike that.
Take a break, let the brain heal, come back. In the meantime, we got Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega the second time. Whatever happens there, maybe throws a wrench in things. But I think Max, with Volk losing, Max, how do you not put him there?
Yeah.
Max is the guy.
The only other wrinkle to that is, what if Max Holloway goes in there and beats Justin Gaethje at 155 pounds, who Justin Gaethje realistically ought to be fighting for 155 pounds next, outside of Jim Miller, right?
I mean, I already solved that problem.
I understand, but what we're saying is,
if they don't want the easy fix,
let's pretend that's off the board. In a just world, wouldn't Justin Gaethje be fighting for the belt anyway? The 155 pound belt, I should say.
Justin Gaethje should be fighting for 155.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Max Holloway goes in there and beats him, why does he need to go down to 45 fight for the 155 title?
We've seen him at 55 though.
Sure.
He doesn't look great.
Maybe not, but maybe now is the right time. And maybe that's what he preferred to do anyway.
If that's what he prefers, sure. Mm-hmm. But then I guess Max jumps the line there.
Not necessarily. He didn't really jump the line. He beat the guy.
Yeah,
there's of course the other fight.
He got the shot at the guy.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying, I don't know that him winning at 155 pounds over Justin Gaethje is the sign that he should go down to fight for the title.
Although Islam and Max does intrigue me.
Why is that?
I think it's a tough fight for Islam.
Okay.
And I think Max does pretty well.
All right.
Keeping it where he wants it.
I guess we could see how that would hold up, right?
But Gaethje Islam is so intriguing too.
There's a lot of great fights out there. 155, 145, 135. It's all gravy, baby.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you.
You know what? We were going to talk about something else next, but I want to skip down because I mentioned 135. Murad Dvalishvili. Dvalishvili. I need to say his name right. I've been saying it wrong. Dvalishvili. The V's are pronounced like W's.
All right.
Yeah, that's what they've been saying on the broadcast. I'm going to start doing it because I owe it to the man. The man is quite possibly the best bantamweight on the planet, with or without a belt. What do you think about that? Is he the best 135er over even Sean O'Malley?
I don't know.
And you know what? To throw some respect on his name, Patchy Mix too.
Oh.
Patchy Mix deserves to be mentioned.
Patchy is really good.
Yes, I know.
I would say Patchy 1, and then O'Malley 2A, Merab 2B. I would say it like that.
Okay.
I want to see. Merab got cracked good by Cejudo. That's what O'Malley's known for.
Mm-hmm.
Being very precise. I got to see that fight happen before I make a decision on that. But I think Mix is top of both.
Yeah, I think I can get behind the idea of Mix being the best 135er on the planet. I would co-sign on that. But I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to actually put Merab over Sean O'Malley.
Mm.
I mean, how many jackets does the guy have to take before you take him seriously?
Yeah.
I think it's more of a kryptonite kind of thing. I think Dvalishvili is going to be able to, when they do inevitably fight, whether it's in the next fight if O'Malley does defend, or even if it doesn't happen, I see the two of them eventually meeting. And when they do, I do think that Dvalishvili's game is just such that it's going to work out differently than it did with Aljamain Sterling. I think he's going to be able to wear him down. I think he's going to be a little smarter. I think they will have learned from how things went in the Aljo fight. I think Dvalishvili will be disciplined in his strategy in that fight. So I tend to favor him. So that's why I'm going to say that. But I do like the idea of putting Mix number one. I actually think he's just overall the most skilled at 135 pounds. He's very dangerous against top competition, and I think he can win the fight basically anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. One more of the bigger fights from the weekend that we got to talk about is Robert Whittaker getting the win over Paulo Costa. I had it the other way. I actually had Costa winning. Totally could have gone the other way. I had no problem with it, being, a Robert Whittaker win. And I know that kind of went against the idea of what everybody was talking about, that it was like a good performance from Whittaker and everything like that. And I think he did have a good performance.
You scored it for Costa?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I gave rounds 1 and 3.
All right.
Now, I mean, I have not gotten to watch round 3 again, which is a unanimous round for Whittaker. And I think everyone, probably on social media, it seemed like everybody was on the idea that Whittaker won that round. I saw the numbers. The numbers support Whittaker there too. Not that the numbers have to be everything, but am I crazy first off for that?
I got to remember what round 3 was now.
That's all right. If you don't remember off the top of your head, I don't want to waste time. But I don't know. I'm very open to the idea that it could have gone the other way. I just kind of saw it that way. But this particular fight, and we will talk about the one split round from that fight in just a little bit. But here's what I'll ask you about Whittaker. This is the more pressing question. What are the odds that he fights Dricus du Plessis for the championship before Adesanya decides he's ready to come back and get that fight?
Well, I guess that's up to Adesanya.
Sure.
So
what would you handicap it at?
I would lean towards Whittaker fighting first.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I guess it depends when they need somebody to fight in June. Maybe they're thinking they got to get somebody back in there.
Speaking of June, I heard June 1st, the city of Newark allocated like $5 million for a UFC pay-per-view.
Is that right?
I did. I heard that was like on one of those fight news tweets.
Oh, well,
related to New Jersey.
Unless you can tell me where it's from, I will just call it shenanigans.
I'll find it.
All right.
But it was a legit source, like part of that like city media type thing.
Now, let me ask you this. Was it written in giant yellow block letters?
No, it wasn't one of those.
Then I can't take it seriously. Because those are the only things that are true, right? Anyway. I don't know. I do think Adesanya will get back in time for that fight. And I think it would be a major fumble of the ball here because there is some juice behind the idea of Adesanya and du Plessis fighting. Whereas a third Whittaker and Adesanya fight potentially happening down the road. It's like some people talked about it after the second fight. Like, oh, Whittaker looked good. He should get a third chance. I'm like, man, he looked okay, but like he didn't win that fight. And I don't know that he should be doing that, The only question is, hey, because it's du Plessis who beat Whittaker, are they willing to allow that to happen as quickly?
That's what I started.
That is the one hang up there. But do they want to hold up that division? They're going to use a lot of championship fights in the next couple months. They're going to have to put somebody out there.
Real quick, I want to get back to this. What you're talking about real quick.
Which one? Oh, Newark?
Yeah, it was Nolan King, so very respected.
Who's Nolan King?
That reported that.
Sounds like a fake name.
Which he got from NorthJersey.com.
That sounds like a fake name.
Now
Nolan King, yeah.
Now back to Israel Adesanya.
Shout out Nolan, I love you.
He should take and learn from what Henry Cejudo did. Retiring in the prime of his career, going away for 3 years, coming back and not being able to compete at the same level that he was at.
Who's this we're talking about?
Adesanya. He should learn from Cejudo.
Not go that long, yeah.
And not go that, just bring it back if this is what he wants to do. Otherwise, hang it up for good.
Listen, that was a little different, though, because Cejudo just felt like he had conquered and he was done, right? He didn't care enough. Whereas Adesanya fought for a long time. Finally did lose for the second time, and this one had a lot less like juice behind it too. It was kind of a weirder thing, and you could feel there was probably a sense of burnout rather than like, oh, I'm just picking a time when I want to go out on top kind of thing. It didn't feel like it was like the wrong time to take a break. You know what I mean? And also, it wasn't a permanent break. He is not saying he's done for good.
How many people not named John Jones take an extended period, come back better?
I don't know that John Jones came back better either.
Oh, he did.
Oh, yeah?
He did.
You got that from 75 seconds against a guy who could out wrestle with his eyes closed and probably 30 pounds ago.
Oh, now we're just throwing Gon under the bus like that.
We're
wrestling,
just getting
rid of him like that.
Did you watch his wrestling against Francis Tired and Ngannou?
We're just throwing at that point. Everyone was like, "Oh, Gon's the better fight. Gon's the better fight than Francis at the time," and then he demolished him.
I never thought that. First off,
a lot of people did.
Well, I'm not a lot of people.
A lot of people did.
I'm me. Most people should be me. One more thing before we start to get into the unanimity report and all these rounds. I can't say unanimity. There was some UFC Hall of Fame news they announced the upcoming edition of Vanderlei Silva.
It's funny because they announced him as one of the most intimidating guys, and I'm like, that's got to be Vanderlei. I'm like, who else? Who else are you gonna describe as that? And then, sure enough, boom, chalk one up for me.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Well played. And then cue the Sandstorm.
Yes,
that kind of gave it away a bit too. Although I guess John Anik had already said who it was at that point, right? But yeah, obviously well deserved. I mean, he was probably like outside of Fedor, which obviously has more complications because he never fought in the UFC proper during his time in the sport, and there's so many complications with that beyond just that fact, right? Because of the playing favorites and the whole thing, you got to ingratiate yourself and that kind of thing, right? Vanderlei Silva was easily the biggest glaring hole of the UFC Hall of Fame outside of fighters who have not retired yet. You know, he was the one who needed to be there. So that solved a long-standing issue. I don't remember what the details were. I don't remember if it was kind of like there was some animosity there. Whatever it is, they've solved it, or they've gotten to the point where he's here, and I'm happy about that. My question, sir, now that he's in, which retired fighter should be next?
Well,
for an individual accolade, I'm also going to clarify that.
I'm with you.
Because you put the fights in there, whatever. That's not the same thing. Duo Choi would never in a million years be a UFC Hall of Famer had he not been in a really banger fight with Cub Swanson, who also would not be in the Hall of Fame otherwise.
So my pick, I was looking at, I share a first name with this guy.
Daniel Cormier is in.
As much as Dan Miller deserves to be in there,
sir.
My pick is Dan Henderson.
It should be Dan Henderson
as the next one.
That's who I was saying as well. That is easily who I was saying as my next choice.
So it's hard to think like who else, who's not. And I'm so confused by the modern wing and the pioneer wing because I'm like, GSP was the champ the same exact time that Anderson was the champ. Why is Anderson under a pioneer wing and why is GSP under a modern wing over some arbitrary date that they set?
I think it's the idea of when their careers began.
Yeah, that's
or
what
something
it is.
Like that.
It's weird.
I get it. I get it. It's just it doesn't even matter anyway. At some point, they're gonna stop putting pioneers in because they're gonna run out of them. We're getting closer to that day than you think. Basically, you put in Dan Henderson. If they ever find the way to put Fedor in somehow, and like Takanori Gomi. Those are like the three guys that, off the top of my head, they're probably the ones who would belong in that pioneer wing.
I was like, does Crow Cop belong there?
Maybe. He flamed out so spectacularly in the UFC and really just kind of changed his legacy in a lot of people's minds who did not watch the Pride era. I didn't experience the Pride era, but I went back and watched the Pride era, and I appreciate what he brought to the table. I'm
guessing Arlovsky will be in there at some point.
I'm ambivalent to that one.
Like,
I know I don't want to litigate everybody right now. We got other things we can do, but yeah, I feel like those three that I named, maybe Shogun too, if you want to put him in there, he'd probably be from the pioneer wing technically. If the cutoff is, I mean, I don't know what the cutoff is. Maybe he actually isn't. I have no idea.
November 17th, 2000.
I think he actually started his career thereafter. I could be wrong, but yeah, there might be. Either way, put Shogun in too. He should be in. Just put in all of Pride.
No Garrett.
The entirety of Pride just goes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the only way Fedor gets in, really.
Bob Sapp.
Yeah, Bob Sapp, definitely. 100%. Let's get over to that unanimity report. Boom. Nailed it. One take. Not counting all the billion other ones. 19 out of 26 rounds from UFC 298 were unanimous. 73.1%. Solid. That's a pretty normal number. Maybe a little bit better than usual. We had one of our rounds being a 9-8 split. So we're only talking about 6 instances of who won the round. Let's get over to that fight I mentioned before. Robert Whittaker getting the win over Paulo Costa. It was 29-28 twice and a 30-27. I was the out non-judge who gave it 29-28 the other way. You want to throw tomatoes at me? Whatever. That's fine. But let's talk about round one. This is the one that actually was split on the actual judges' cards. Dan, what's happening?
Yeah, this is a pretty competitive round early on. But as it goes on, Whittaker starts to pull away a bit. He was good with the combos to the head, good leg kicks. Costa did keep pace for a while, as I said, landed some good shots of his own. But, definitely behind as the round goes on. And he's probably on his way to losing a close but clear round. And then 10 seconds left, he lands a spinning heel kick that wobbles Whittaker. Follows up with a little bit of a flurry. I think Costa steals it at the end with this kick, especially in a competitive round like this. Whitaker kept throwing back. After he was stumbled, seemed to regain himself pretty quickly. I don't have an issue if someone scored it for Whitaker, especially if you don't see him stumble because it was such a brief stumble. Maybe you don't have that vantage point of it to see exactly how effective that strike was that landed. But I like it for Costa 10-9.
It really does seem to come down to how heavily you're weighing that one singular strike in that round where things did happen, but it wasn't like the most insane of busy rounds, you know? It's tricky. I can only imagine it's that strike, right? Could it be anything else, really?
This strike is what switches because it's pretty clear that Whitaker's winning this round.
And how much it weighs,
until
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I felt really good about Whitaker, and even that landed, I was like, man, what do I do here? And I did put down Costa, ultimately, because again, I gave him 4 rounds out of 3. No, I think it's fine that it did go the other way because we're talking about a very tricky dilemma here. What do you do? Especially that information, you have to process that very quickly too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very difficult thing, I think, for a judge. I would have to imagine is to try and process. All right, what do you do with that information over those last 10 seconds? You've got to sort that out. What is too reactionary? What is too because you don't get the benefit of watching thereafter, right? You're not supposed to. Yeah, you got to get that scoring quick. I had no problem with it. I had a problem with Mike Bell here giving it to Whitaker. I, like you, had it for Costa, so we saw it in the majority. Judges Ron McCarthy and Elliot Kelly. And keep that name in mind. He's going to come up again. He's all over this show. It's the Elliot Kelly show, pretty much. Not every round, but he'll be hearing it. Anything else on this one? Anything else on this one, Mr. Coffee over there?
No, I think this is good. I mean, I'm going to reference this one again.
You are
later
okay.
on.
All right, I like that. Now. I like that. A little callback.
Yeah.
Little bring everything together. Let's move on to the only split decision actually of the night, and this had 2 of our rounds from the evening. 2 out of the 3 that actually, 4 actually happened on the main card. Right, we were kind of mostly flying through the prelims. But yeah, that would be an Ian Machado Garry, got the win over Geoff Neal. 2 30-27s for the winner, Machado Garry, and then a 29-28 the other way for Geoff Neal. So, one judge, Derek Cleary, seeing both rounds 1 and 2 the other way. Judges Felicia O and Sal D'Amato had these for Machado Garry. Let's talk about round 1, my man.
Kind of a slow round. Neither guy really landed very clean. A lot of block shots, not a ton of volume. Neal did have one nice solid shot that pressed Garry back to the fence. But on the whole, I think the shots that Garry landed were a bit more cleaner. Good kicks to the body. Had a nice knee up the middle, followed by another punch. I lean Garry in probably the closest round of the fight.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is definitely the closest of the rounds. I did go the other way, actually, in this one. All I see is losers winning these fights, apparently. If you think if the guy got his hand raised, I thought the other guy won something. That's what we're really at here.
You could have a debate with your buddy Eric Richter. He had a strong opinion on this round.
Who's Eric Richter?
From the New York Post.
Yeah, I know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I talk to him every week. Yeah, so I didn't feel that strongly, to be honest. I thought this was very close. I think you could certainly go the other way for Machado Garry, but I did have Neal here. So I leaned the same way as Judge Cleary, the 2023 Couchside Judges Judge of the Year.
All right, that's fair.
Or excuse me, Scott Fontana of the Couchside Judges Judge of the Year, because we don't do a unanimous one, do we? Man, that'd be hard. We would just sit there and fight over it.
We would just yell at each other.
It would just be we just have co-judges every year. That's all it would be. Yeah, everybody loves to yell. Yeah, like we said, Judges O and D'Amato had it the same way as you for Machado Garry, but yeah, we're not throwing tomatoes here at each other, right?
No.
Round 2, let's go.
Another close round. I think Garry starts really well. I think he kind of pulls away a little bit, gets a nice lead. As the round goes on, Neal starts to find his range there, and he's landed some good ones to make it very close and competitive. I just think Garry held on to the lead, so 10-9 for Machado Garry.
Yeah, I had Machado Garry too. As we know, as I just said 3 seconds ago, Derek Cleary is the worst judge of all time. Oh wait, that's not what I said at all. Not even close. Yeah. So I could see why this goes the other way. It's funny because clearly his corner did not think he was in great shape here.
Who, Neal's corner?
Yeah. Am I thinking of the right fight?
Things are different at cage side.
Yeah, sure.
Things are so
I think they probably just wanted more from him, right? It's not necessarily that he's losing the fight. It's that they're looking for things that he's not doing.
So this is you know how much of I can't stand, third round starts and the fighters hug each other.
That is your favorite thing.
Or the mid-fight, they're, high-fiving each other, which they did this the entire fight.
Oh my God, yeah, that
Everything
was
they
a little
landed,
weird.
They kept giving high fives to each other. It's like, we're not sparring, guys. You are adversaries trying to kill each other. And I think that may be some of what the corner was going for. You're giving him too much respect. You're trying to kill this guy. Go fight him.
Do you think that that's a tactic from Machado Garry, who thinks he's probably doing well, and he's like, hey, let's just kind of stall here?
You know what? He drives me nuts because he wants the comparison to Conor McGregor so bad, and it's just not there.
So does Topuria, to be fair.
Topuria's finishing guys, though.
Yeah, no,
and he
you're
actually
right.
has a belt.
Now he does.
So,
that's true.
Gary,
Though he said he had a belt a few days ago too.
That's true. Too.
He gave himself 15-0 during fight week.
All right. Well, what are you gonna do? But Machado Garry, if you're gonna be Conor McGregor, be Conor McGregor. I've never seen Conor McGregor give someone a high five in the middle of a fight, outside the start of a round.
Did he even do that? I don't remember. I don't
good,
distinctly remember.
I can never picture him or even imagining him doing that.
Okay.
Like, if you want to be Conor, start going out in there and finishing guys. Be Conor.
There are other ways to be Conor,
Other
too.
ways outside of just
They're usually
talking.
illegal. Yeah. Or costly. As Dan just coughs up a lung here.
Just want to clear my throat.
Is that the way we we close out every fight? I think we're done here in this one.
I think we're done on this one.
Yeah, we're done on this one. Let's move on to, we're going on the prelims here. Oban Elliott get the win over Val Woodburn, 30-27 twice and a 29-28. The result of the fight was not in doubt once we got to the end, but there were some eyebrows raised by the score of round one. Let's talk about round one and how we got there first.
Okay. Elliott lands a head kick that Woodburn just eats.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even respond to. Cracks Elliott with a left, drops him, rocks him a little bit. He swarms, but Elliott's really never in that bad of danger. He's never that hurt. He's able to get a takedown, has his wits about him, quickly on the back, where he spends the next 3:45 on the ground, most of it on the back, landing punches, attacking chokes, ends the round in mount, postured up,
and he's really heating it up at that point in the round too. It's actually like sort of steady built to better offense as it got later. Yes,
he starts dropping the elbows, slam dunk Elliott 10-9 round here.
You think it's a total slam dunk?
I think it's a total slam dunk. I want to say this. I want to say I was probably closer to 10-8 Elliott than I was 10-9 Woodburn.
Ooh.
I wasn't close to the 8, but I'm closer in comparison there. You cannot judge a round based on who had the highest spot. And Woodburn just had one spot. That's it. He had nothing else. He was dominated the rest of the entirety of the round. And this is a slam dunk Elliott 10-9.
So there's two fronts I'll address. Number one, I am closer to Woodburn than I am 10-8 Elliott.
Okay.
That doesn't really matter though, because yes, I see this as an Oban Elliott round as well, and pretty clear. I would say pretty clear. Although again, it does get very complicated because it depends how hurt he looks to the judge from that angle, right? What are we seeing? And how much is he seeing of what's landing, and like how much is he viewing some of that landing, right? It's a tough thing. I don't think a great score is Woodburn here. If all we're going to say is, yes, that happened in the first, 30, 35 seconds of the fight, and he was hurt for, 15 seconds of that, Elliott, with Woodburn in control at that point because he'd hurt him. Yeah, that's... I don't want to say it's lazy if that's what... I mean, if that's all it is, then that is lazy. But I imagine it's more complicated than that, which is the reason... for the reasoning being why Elliott Kelly, the judge. No relation to Oban Elliott, because that's a first name and a last name. Notably, Judge Elliott Kelly spells his first name with one T. I saw that there was a rivalry there online. Somebody was talking about that. That's obviously made up. But I have to favor Oban Elliott here. I think it's got to be him. And I think judges Mike Bell and Judge Chris Lieben, I think they're in the right here.
I agree with what you're saying. You're sitting cage side. Maybe you don't have the greatest view, seeing how hurt he actually is.
Or it can look differently how hurt he is, how much he hurts Oban Elliott.
Woodburn.
Oh, you're coughing. We're going to wrap this up, huh?
Does nothing the rest of the round.
You're right. No, 100%. 100%.
Does absolutely nothing. The full 5 minutes of the round matter.
Yeah.
Not just one moment of it.
No, I'm with you.
And now I said I was going to call back the other thing.
Okay.
In a close round, like we had with Whitaker and Costa, the highest spot a lot of times is going to sway it.
Very often.
But this was not anywhere remotely close to a competitive round.
It gets tricky, though, and I'll say this, because it's going to depend on a judge's interpretation of, weighing the most impactful versus, cumulative damage, right?
Sure.
Immediately impactful versus cumulative. There's no definitive answer in those 3.5 pages that we tell everybody to read at the top of the show. It's very open to interpretation. I don't know how you could truly fix something like that with the wording. I think you probably could improve it a little bit, but there's still going to be situations where a judge could justifiably sit there and say, listen, that was the most impactful thing. I thought he was really out. I think it's too hard to come back from that. I disagree. I'll sit here and disagree, but I don't. It is hard for me to say that is an absolutely wrong score. You want to add this to our list for the year?
I do.
I'm okay with that.
I do.
I don't know if I'm going to agree with you or not. I might. Maybe revisiting it near the end of the year, it'll start to look, all right, this is a little bad, but sometimes your understanding of these things can change over time. I don't imagine that was a very well-liked score, but I could sort of get why we get there. That's where I'm at.
I think he has a defense. He can say, hey, this guy was hurt very bad, super damaged.
But that's all that matters. You just have to be able to defend it.
But does it have to be a good defense?
I mean, it should be a better defense, sure.
It should be better than that, but it can be defended.
I would think this is probably an example of a round that maybe could be highlighted in like training or something like that, right? This would be like a high level judge training kind of thing, where they should trot around like this out and say, who's supposed to win this round?
I mean, I watched
and then at least come up with a definition for that for people watching and say, look, there's no question who had the highest spot here, but is that enough to win the round alone? And that's where the judges need to kind of get on the same page, and the regulars need to get on the same page of what they really want to see in a situation like that, because the language of the criteria isn't going to define it for you, not exactly, and that's where it gets tricky.
Also, I want to say I watched it a second time just to see how badly. This
I've only watched it once. I will say that. I didn't watch it live. I should point out
he's not that hurt.
I didn't think he was hyper hurt. I really didn't. But I didn't think he was hyper hurt.
I think Mackenzie Dern was hurt worse.
I think Mackenzie Dern looked like she wanted to be out of that fight for just a split second.
Yeah.
I think
that's what it looked like, yeah.
There was a point, you bring up that fight, Mackenzie Dern against Amanda Lemos. That fight looked like, was that Mike Beltran was the ref, I believe, on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like when she crumples to the ground and she kind of covers her face up.
Yeah.
That was not like I'm defending myself kind of thing. That's like oh no, I'm really hurt kind of thing.
That was Johnny Walker falling back last
month. It was bad.
Similar.
And I don't, some people will talk about like, is there a trigger that gets pulled a little quicker in women's? I know we're on a tangent here. We're off on a little bit of a tangent away from Open Elliott against Val Wordburn, but I think you're right that we should bring this up and discuss this. Mike Beltran, a couple years ago, he stops the fight between Juliana Velasquez and Liz Carmouche. Took some criticism for that one. I think justifiably too. I think we were probably a little critical of that as well at that point. And I don't think we were necessarily assigning this type of thing to referee Beltran specifically, but the idea that there could be a trigger that gets pulled a little quicker with women's fights in general, with some evidence, not consistent evidence, but certainly something where you see it. This same referee in this scenario lets the fight go, where realistically I'm saying you stop it. I think you stop it there.
No, if anyone stopped the fight there, it would have been totally fine.
It's only a moment, right? There's like a good like under 2 seconds where you think, okay, man, this woman looks like she doesn't want to fight anymore. And all of a sudden she gets back into it. She very much wants to continue fighting. Like, yeah, she is not looking for a way out. She's not like that, but she was hurt in that moment. And the fact that she reacted that way, Mackenzie Dern did in that moment, knowing the way she is, the dog she is when she gets in there, that she acted that way, tells me she did not need to be in that fight anymore. But credit to her. And credit to referee Beltran for letting that go, because obviously she was able to continue. I don't think she was like hyper concussed necessarily. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but it is tricky. We're obviously, that's a gigantic tangent that we're away from Open Elliott and Val Woodburn, right? But
although I don't want to pile on Elliott Kelly. I just want to say that.
How do you feel about 1T and Elliott?
It makes it tougher to. Now you always want to go for the double tap.
I'm very much a 2T guy as a Scot with 2 Ts. Always bothered me that Scott Pollard, the NBA player who just got a heart transplant, good for him, happy for him there, did not like that he went by 1T. Not a fan.
Scott Skiles a 1T guy?
2 T's.
Oh, he's a 2T
Scott
guy?
T.
Okay.
The all-time single game record holder for assists in NBA history. 2 T's.
Okay.
That's the way it goes.
All right.
Also, Scotty is okay, and you can do IE or Y.
Your guy's Scotty Barnes.
I love Scotty Barnes.
There you go.
He's the second Scotty in NBA history to be an all-star.
Next to
That's fact.
Pippen, I guess.
My dad used to call me Scotty
All right.
when I was a kid. He was like one of the only ones who ever did.
Well, Scotty doesn't know a song.
Scotty doesn't know was a song.
I mean,
It was a satirical song
that
from
played for you?
Eurotrip. My friends would joke with me about it
okay.
before I'd
That's
see
what I
the
was
movie,
asking,
and then I saw it. I mean, we're on all sorts of tangents here. I think you coughed like 10 minutes ago. We got to wrap up this fight and go over to Miranda Maverick against Andrea Lee, which was unanimous nod, 30-27 twice for Maverick, 29-28 was on one of the cards. We're only talking about round 3. No one was doubting who was going to win this fight. Although real estate, there was some closeness to the rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess when I say no one was doubting it, I really mean that the judges knew who was going to win, pretty much, or at least individual judges knew who was winning on their card, right? So let's talk about 3, though. We don't need to get into every other round. Let's talk about 3.
Maverick was looking really good on the feet. Kicks, combos to the head. Just cruising to victory, really, as you mentioned. Lee didn't really land much of substance until she lands a spinning back fist late in the round, which Maverick was like, you could tell, she's like, do I keep standing or should I just take her down? And then she's like, let me just take her down, run the clock out here. But then she gets locked in a reverse triangle. It just really wasn't there. She ate a couple decent shots. Wasn't enough for me, but I'm okay if someone scored it for Lee.
So yeah, I had Maverick too. And I think when I watched it, I probably slept a little too much on that spinning back fist, because I think if I'd given a little more thought to it, and I try to go with the score that I put down, right? A judge would do that, and then maybe they regret it later. So I'm in that situation. I'm going to try and treat it that way, where I put down one card and I kind of regret it later because of that spinning back fist in particular. Less about the grappling there. Although it's tricky. What are you supposed to do with all of that grappling, which doesn't look distinctly close to any sort of finish, which is the actual effect of the actions, right? But then there's also the fact that, Miranda Maverick is definitely not doing what she wants to over that time. She's eating some elbows. She's eating some strikes. It's not a good spot.
No.
It's tricky. It feels not defined enough in the criteria.
I agree, but
that's where I feel that is an issue there, which is why I feel completely fine, especially with Ron McCarthy giving that to Lee. And again, I think I almost have some buyer's remorse. I think I would even go Lee, but more again for that spinning back fist.
Well, yeah, the back fist is the spot.
I think I just slept on it a little too much, to be perfectly honest.
I think we can get there if Lee. I think I get there if Lee's not punching the triceps of Maverick, and actually landing on the head when she has her stuck in the triangle.
Fair,
I could get there.
That's fair. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's fine going either way. I got no issue.
Yeah. But ultimately I will just stick with the score that I wrote down just for the official sake, right? The one I posted online as I was scoring live when I watched this. I was like here and there with my ability to score fights live.
Early.
Yeah. Well, I tune in. It's always on my TV. I need you to understand something. I don't turn off UFC. Every single week it's on. I will sometimes step out to say goodnight to my children, and I will miss parts of fights, and sometimes it's heavyweights, and I'm very happy for that. Sometimes I get very lucky in that respect. But it's always on, and I'm always watching first fight, round 1. This one I was actually able to sit and score the first fight, which I don't always. Then sometimes I have to step away. I've got some other work that I'm doing on my Saturdays. I always get to devote all my attention directly to watching close enough to score. If I'm not doing that, I can't score it. That's not fair. Mm-hmm. You can't say, especially me who tries to at least purport that he knows something about the criteria. I don't claim to be an expert, but at least I think I know more than, let's say, the average media member in the mixed martial arts community.
I would say put you in a room with 10 random people from the sport, and you're number one in understanding the criteria.
All right.
Not including officials, obviously.
Yeah, we're talking about media members. I get it.
That includes fighters, media members, coaches.
Oh, is that right?
I would put you up against knowing the criteria.
Boom. Throwing a left hook on that one. I throw my right hand. Good thing we're not video. And I'm coughing now. I don't remember where we were going with that. I'm like so far away from what we were talking about.
It's time for the heavyweights.
It's probably time to move on. Yeah, I think we kind of dissed. I should also just point out we agreed as judges with as couchside judges with the real judges Rafael Davis and Felicia O. Ron McCarthy was the judge technically on his island. Who I'm jealous that I wasn't on that island.
Were there parties on the island?
Probably not.
Oh,
I don't believe Andrea Lee is having the type of parties that I want to attend.
okay.
I'll leave it at that. There are 2 more rounds. Let's go on. Like you said, the heavyweights, Marcos Rogerio de Lima getting the win over Junior Tafa. Round 2 TKO, leg kicks and some punches in there too. I also want to give a shout out before we get into this. I believe it was Craig Allen. I want to give him a shout out here because if I'm right that it was Craig, he tweeted out at the beginning of this or right before that Junior Tafa's kryptonite is essentially the leg kicks and that this is just like a terrible matchup for him. And what happens? This happens. He said this before the fight started. And that stuck with me. I'm like, good God, like I didn't do that much homework on this one, to be fair, especially because it was put together so late and also because it's heavyweights and I hope I never have to watch them. Like really sit and watch them. But or unless it was, a 10-second knockout, that'd be fun. This wasn't so bad. It was interesting to watch this particular fight. But credit to Craig Allen. Great job great read on that one. Great analysis ahead of time. Round 1 was a split round. Let's talk about why.
De Lima landing low kicks early, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Lands a huge left up top that, kind of stuns Tafa slightly. About his 5th or 6th low kick, Tafa is struggling to stand up. It's like, oh my God.
He was already in trouble with the first one.
My leg is done. And De Lima does what we were all rooting for. He clinches. Once they separate.
Love me some heavyweight clinching.
Lands another good leg kick, then unloads a barrage of body and head shots against the fence, and he shoots another takedown, which he gets almost at the exact halfway point through the round. From here, he lands good ground and pound for the rest of the round. I do think we got dominance. I think we got damage. I think this is an 8. I mean, I understand the pushback from someone scoring it a 9 saying, he didn't really push for that finish, but I think Elliot Kelly nailed it here. I think this is an 8.
There's no duration because it's very single strike a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And even, the extended periods where it was on the ground in the grappling phase, it wasn't necessarily like heavily active down there. So you can absolutely wipe away duration. And that's why we started to have the debate here because we're only talking about 2Ds potentially, right? And yes, damage is definitely there. The leg is chewed to heck. You can't deny the high level of damage that has been done to that leg. And I do think, yes, the duration, like you said, I think it's there because
the dominance, you mean?
Yeah, excuse me. It's late. It's always late. We don't do these at 2 p.m, sir.
Yeah, we don't.
As Dan checks the clock. I think you have to give dominance here. I think even though I believe it was Joe Rogan or was it Michael Bisping said, oh yeah, definitely Junior Tafa is the better striker because of his, glory kickboxing background.
They were talking about comparing him to his brother, Justin, with that. Not
the better striker of the 2 brothers.
Yeah.
I see. That makes much more sense because I was going to say we didn't see anything close to that manifest in this fight. We saw somebody who didn't understand how to not get kicked in the leg. And we saw somebody who understood how to kick someone in the leg hard and repeatedly. Yeah, I think you got dominance in the striking. I think you definitely have the damage. So I feel good enough. Those are some good Ds. I'm going to go 10-8.
Also, I think the only strike Tafa lands is a punch from his butt while he's being thrown down.
A punch from his butt. Now that is where the fist comes out of the rectum, correct?
Yeah, like he's sitting down and
the fist comes out,
throws a punch,
reverses. Yeah. Anyway,
like so, very little offense from the other side.
Yeah,
a lot of damage and dominance from the other side. I like an 8 here.
I like an 8.
Elliot Kelly, I'm with you.
Elliot Kelly. I told you this is the Elliot Kelly show. So we've gone from not seeing it his way to having him being around. It was like, okay, we had him in the majority on that one too. This is him out on his own, and we see it his way. We were against judges Felicia O and Rafael Davis. But again, we're only talking about 2Ds, so at that point it's very discretionary. It's not like it has to be the 8, but we like the 8. What does that mean for Judge Elliot Kelly?
Catch that over. There you go.
Got to ship that one out to California.
Totally redeems himself.
Watch your mail. Keep watching. Just watch forever. Just waste your time. One more fight, my man. Anthony Hernandez getting the win over Roman Kopylov. Kopylov, right? Kopylov, a.k.a. Russian Chase Hooper. Round 2 submission. Rear naked choke is our finish. We did have a split round in the first. Let's talk about it.
Good round. I thought Kopylov really landed crisp shots, but Hernandez landed pretty good as well. And I think more. He punched his way in to, get the clinches that he wants, go for the takedowns. Credit to Kopylov, defended a ton of them. Towards the end of the round, he landed a nice elbow when they broke from the clinch there. I think in the second half is where Hernandez takes the edge on volume, but not by much. Like I said, Kopylov had some decent offense early. It's just he didn't land that many. Good kicks to the body, good punches to the head. Just not enough for me. I thought Hernandez wins it. 10-9.
Same. I don't really have a ton that I can add to that one. I think we've belabored so many of these points. So you broke it down well enough. I'm on Hernandez, close round. So we agree with, and the majority with judges Crippler and Cleary.
Judge Crippler and Cleary.
Judge Crippler. We were not on the same page as Judge Saldamato. Sorry, Mr.
All right, it was close.
Terrible. Saldamato again. Anyway, and that is it for our contested rounds this week. We did have 5 finishes, 4 of them by KO or TKO. Remember last year where it was like there was subs aplenty throughout like the first few events? We're not really seeing that happen again. We're kind of back to the typical knockouts are really taking over. The one submission, of course, in that fight we just talked about, and one fight did end in the first round. Of all these 5 finishes, my friend, what was your favorite?
The fight we just talked about.
What a stunner.
Fluffy choking out Kopylov, but not for the reason because it was the only sub.
Oh,
it was because
I thought that was actually it.
It brought me back to Nate Diaz with a fully locked in triangle and 2 fingers. 2 middle fingers in a locked in, fully locked in triangle. The way I haven't seen that since. Fluffy locks in the choke and he's like, "Yep, it's over." He just starts nodding, just waiting for the tap, and that's why I'm there.
It was a good visual. I'll give you that, and a good win. He is impressive because Kopylov, I think, is somebody they kind of were hoping was able to take off a little bit. I don't know that he was necessarily going to be a star, but it seemed like he was he's getting some noteworthy placements on cards and things like that. Whereas Anthony Hernandez just keeps knocking people off. It's like they were saying in the broadcast, he just wins. He's impressive and easy to root for.
Yeah. And your favorite?
You gotta go with El Matador. You gotta go with the new champion, Ilia Topuria. When you knock out a guy who's never lost at his weight class and has been the champion for 4 years running, I don't care if he's coming off of another knockout. Very impressive stuff. Just destroyed him with that right hook.
Yeah.
Kind of, got him in the right spot up against the cage. He posted his hand just for distance and boom, cracked it with the right hook and Old Man Volk, he went down. Godspeed, Old Man Volk. I will say he is and he's not going away. I mean, for all I know, he'll get a rematch and actually win the belt back. I'm not counting that out. I really won't. It's going to be tough, though. It's definitely hard to get back to the point where you just were. But he has been one of my favorite people to talk to over the last several years. He is friendly, engaging. He's not. Sometimes people just feel like they're kind of doing it right. Not him. He's always there, and he's a very busy guy, and he seems very down to earth. So easily likable guy. And you should like this. We mentioned this before. Harry Potter fan.
Yes. It's a good guy.
He's a big guy.
And he's also training Jamal Murray, right?
Yeah.
To beat up Draymond Green?
Yeah, probably.
I think that's what the next matchup's going to be.
Almost definitely.
So I like that.
I heard he's also training like a guy with some money, a little bit of money, and a social media platform.
Oh, Zuck? Me, Rob's favorite person.
Did you see? Yeah, that was right. Did you see the clip of Zuckerberg standing there as Volkanovski's taking off like his gear and stuff and handed it to teammates, and it looks like he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. It's like Zuckerberg's like, am I supposed to take this? And it's like, no, someone else takes it. He just seems very like unsure what he's supposed to do with himself. It's like, dude, you have $1 billion. Just stand there, all right? Yeah. You get to play UFC Fantasy Camp. Do it. Just stand there and smile like a goof, all right? And enjoy your money. Go count your money later. And then, by the way, he did not stay in the corner. He went back and sat next to Hunter Campbell where he'd been. And his wife was there as well.
Well, I mean, that was a tremendous seat. So
it was a decent seat.
Yeah.
Imagine, can you just imagine him being in the corner and just be like, you know what I was thinking you should do is you should probably want to try to throw a punch here. I can't do a good Zuckerberg impression. I have some good impressions. We talked about that before the show, but I'll save them for off the show.
He's zoned in, or he's dialed in.
Oh,
he's dialed in. Like that's what when they're in that movie, when they had the headphones on, they're doing all their coding and making Facebook. He's dialed in.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since I saw it in theaters. I should watch that again.
Volk, you got to dial in.
That'd be decent advice. But he was dialed in. He won the first round, so it wouldn't work. Like, Mark, what are you talking about? I'm doing it. I'm doing fine.
Go back to your seat.
Come here, seriously. But that's it. That's it for UFC 298. We're moving on to the next weekend where we have dual events for the first time this year, and the first time without a separate Bellator and a separate PFL. They will no longer be running on the same day anymore since they're controlled by the same organization. Mm-hmm. You got to think they're going to plan it better than that, right? They're not going to put Bellator on the same weekend as a PFL. They wouldn't do that.
Never.
At least not the same day. Good God, I hope not. I hope we've learned that's a bad idea. But anyway, so it is, of course, leading with PFL versus Bellator, the first PFL-ator event of the year.
PFL-ator, wow.
I mean, what else do you call it? It's not Bellator. It's kind of its own thing now. It's not. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. Or I'm not saying it's going to be good. I'm just saying it's not Bellator proper anymore. Yeah, it's kind of like when it's like Spike Force was like the name for Bellator when they got over to Spike, right? It's its own thing. It's different from what it used to be. But anyway, I do. This is an interesting card, although it's lost a little bit of its luster, unfortunately, as time has gone on. It is starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. It's pay-per-view, sir.
Yeah,
I had no idea what's going to cost.
Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't advocate for anyone to find one of those channels that people watch UFC on. Do not do that. That is bad. Bad, especially if you're listening to Couch Side Judges there. We need that sweet ad money. Main event here. This was supposed to be 6 title fights. It was promoted as 6 title fights. We're down to 2. We just lost Patricio Pitbull against Jesus Pinedo, which was champion versus champion. I don't know if they're going to try and keep Pitbull on the card or what, but I mean, that was another fight that we lost that kind of stunk. We're left with Renan Ferreira, the 2023 PFL champion, against Ryan Bader, the incumbent Bellator heavyweight champion. These are 3-round fights, by the way. Mind you. Mm-hmm. And there are elbows. Bader told me so.
Okay.
So, because that was one thing they were wondering. They were like, all right, can we throw elbows in this one? It's like, yeah, you can. So normal, regular, real MMA fight, which is good. That's at heavyweight. And then, weirdly enough, Impa Kasanganay, the 2023 PFL light heavyweight champion, will fight at middleweight against the 185-pound champion from Bellator, Johnny Eblen.
Okay.
So only one person is fighting a champion of their opposing weight class in that weight class. Although I think a lot of people always looked at Impa Kasanganay and said, okay, this is probably somebody who realistically is better suited as a middleweight. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have a middleweight division in PFL. It's in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I imagine they're going to be trying to bring in some judges internationally. That tends to be the way things go. I'm curious who will be making their way out to, I guess it's in Riyadh, right?
I would think.
Yeah.
Maybe friend of the show, Hadi.
Yeah, maybe. He's out in that neck of the woods, right? Bahrain.
So,
what do you think of these 2 fights, though?
The top 2, whatever. I'm much more. I like Johnny Eblen, and the Impa Kasanganay story is kind of pretty awesome.
Impa's been terrific to speak to the couple times that I've interacted with him, I must say. So
he's
an easy to like guy. I've also talked with Johnny. Johnny's always interesting to talk to.
I mean, I feel this is a big step up from last time he was at 85 with like Joaquin Buckley, right?
I believe that was at 85, yeah. Because eventually he did go down to 170.
I mean,
that wasn't Enziguri.
It was close to it.
But there was no leg caught.
It was off a caught leg.
Was it?
Yeah. And he jumps up and kicks him in the face.
A lot of time has passed, man. There's way too many events. There's too many of these things.
Johnny Eblen's an enormous step up. I'm expecting Johnny Eblen to keep his O here.
I can understand that. I guess we'll see. The thing that strikes me about the heavyweight fight is how much more gigantic Ferreira is than Ryan Bader. He's like a monster heavyweight, which you would think, okay, maybe he's a little slow, but he's actually kind of athletic too. So it's like, where is the advantage for Ryan Bader other than experience, right? And wrestling, very distinctly wrestling.
We will see.
I think it's an interesting fight. I actually kind of think it's interesting. It's
all right.
It's one of the first times in a while that Ryan Bader's fought somebody who's not 40 years old. So that's a good thing.
There you go.
44, I should say, actually. I think both of his last 2 fights were against 44-year-old men. But hey, we'll see what happens, right?
Mm.
What do you think of this? This is another weird fight here. They got Jason Jackson, the Bellator welterweight champion, going against former 2-time PFL season winner at 170 pounds, Ray Cooper III, who could not make 185 pounds his last time out, and they're trying to fight at 182 pounds. What are we doing here?
Well, I'm guessing Jackson's like, you know what? All right.
Because it was supposed to it was supposed to be against Mago Millions, and he got hurt.
Yeah.
So that, that's the way it is. That was another fight we lost. They never even bothered, by the way, to put together a Chris Cyborg against Larissa Pacheco fight, which would have been, I think, possibly the most compelling fight on the entire card, even, to be perfectly honest. Like, there's fighters who I'm more interested to watch fight individually than those two, but I think that would have been a very compelling fight, and we just didn't even get it announced. It just didn't happen. It's almost like there's no interest, and I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
No Patchy Mix wasn't on any iteration of this card.
I imagine they're just gonna say Patchy for one of the PFLs, because now they're doing PFL every month. There will be a PFL event, or excuse me, Bellator. I keep saying PFL, Bellator. There's gonna be a Bellator event next month in Dublin. Oh, not Dublin. Excuse me, Belfast. The other island, the northern part, in fact. I imagine there's probably going to be one in April too, and who knows, maybe Patchy's on that one, hopefully against somebody interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll just do Danny Sabatello just because.
Hey, why not?
Who knows? I had no idea. He wouldn't deserve it. He's not earned that fight, but who knows? Yeah, that's a weird fight. Bruno Capolosa against Vadim Nemkov, former champions both. Nemkov giving up the 205 belt to move up to heavyweight here. He was done with.
He was finished.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he'll do. I think this is a decent, at least, start to heavyweight. I think we'll see how it goes. Thiago Santos against Yoel Romero could either be really fun for a little while, or it could be just god awful.
We never know.
You just don't know
won't
much
know.
again. But it's only 3 rounds.
Okay.
And weirdly enough, this could have been a middleweight fight in the UFC several years ago. And they're both fighting at 205. This is my sleeper pick. This is actually my pick for, I don't even know if it's a sleeper pick. Probably everyone will think it too. Clay Collett against AJ McKee is actually going to be fun.
That's not a sleeper pick at all.
That's not. I think
No,
everybody should
that
look at
is.
this. This is probably the most, all right, it's not the most compelling fight of the whole weekend, but it's definitely on this card at 155 pounds. And then Aaron Pico going in there against Gabriel Alves Braga. Braga, if I recall, he was the one who was the runner-up at 145 pounds in the PFL season. He also, again, if I'm thinking of the right person, I believe his father was murdered like last month.
Jeez.
Just an awful situation.
God.
Yeah, really terrible. I believe I'm thinking of the right fighter in this case. I'll try to look that up as we go. What do you think of those fights, though, by the way?
I'm okay with them. They're fine. I think if I'm comparing the two cards, the top of the UFC is far better than the top of PFL Bellator, and the prelims or the undercard is far better PFL Bellator than the UFC's undercard.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, Diego Braga was killed. That's
Jeez.
I believe that was his father, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, father of PFL finalist Gabriel Braga. Very, very sad. Yeah, I definitely I think this is easily a better card, just on the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Not a maybe not a pay-per-view worthy card because we lost so many good fights, but it is what it is. But at least UFC Mexico has probably the 2 most compelling fights, right? Yeah, I think that's absolutely it. They're 10 o'clock main card, Eastern time, non-pay-per-view. And it's in Mexico City. They are not in the Apex. This is a real card. There's going to be fans.
There's going to be cardio issues.
A lot of
for sure.
Somebody, I think that Nolan King character you made up. I think he retweeted what somebody said. I don't know why I did that. Nolan's great. But he retweeted somebody who I guess looked up where's everybody been training for this fight, and a lot of them have been either at Elevation or in Mexico.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that then.
So, yeah, I think most of the people have been there. Brandon Moreno is Mexican.
There, right?
He lives in Mexico. He trains there. Brandon Royval trains at Elevation in Colorado. Mm-hmm. I think it actually might not be as bad as we think it might be. I only wonder about Brian Ortega, actually. Who is fighting Yair Rodriguez for the second time.
There's like 9 other fights though.
There's a lot
That's
of
what I'm saying.
Yeah, but a lot of these guys, same thing.
Oh, same
yeah.
The whole card?
A lot of them actually. They looked at the whole card.
Well, they got the Mexico
it's not
City
everybody.
PI
It's definitely not
now,
everybody,
right?
but there was more than I thought there'd be.
They have a PI in Mexico City, right?
They do indeed.
So then
I believe.
maybe I
believe
would
it
take
opened,
advantage
right?
of it.
I think Raul Rosas Jr. actually might not be in Mexico as much.
Well, I met him on Fremont Street.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty awesome.
That's not Elevation, if I understand.
No.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I love the Moreno Royval rematch. We get 5 rounds of this potentially.
Let's go.
I don't know if it's gonna make it 5 rounds. The last one was epic for like, was it? Did that one make it out of the first round, or did it just get to the second round? I can't remember.
Is that when Royval broke his rib?
I think it might be.
Yeah, I think it was the first round.
That was a wild fight. That was a real wild fight. Wonder which judges are gonna make the trip down actually to Mexico, because they do bring in some judges from the United States for this fight. For these fights in Mexico, they have traditionally. I want to say Sal D'Amato's been there, Eric Colon. I think Derek Cleary too. This is just off the top of my head. I didn't actually look this up like I meant to, but those are names that sound like familiar from when I've looked at those cards in the past.
Right.
So I imagine we'll see those guys, and then maybe some locals as well. I'm not sure. Maybe some other judges. Maybe some people coming up from Brazil. I don't know. We'll see. I hope that we get some better luck with Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega too. Better than when we were there live for the first one in Long Island.
Yeah. I don't think I saw. I think my view was blocked by a very tall welterweight
who shall remain nameless, but whose last name is Brown and first name is Randy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. To be fair, you know what his nickname is, right? Rude Boy.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
He
told you all along.
I don't remember what my feelings were then, but I kind of agree. A lot of people were saying, listen, he was locked into submission and he got injured.
Yeah. No, that's
a sub.
No, that's a win.
So,
that's a real win. That either way, it was still anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Because of the very nature of the way it happened. Even being legit, it was still, it kind of sucked the air out of it just because of the way it went down, right?
Yeah, because it was a big fight at the time.
Yeah.
A lot of
and the fight hadn't really gotten going either, too. It's like,
that's true too.
It just, there was no juice. You kind of want to see some more happen, and it just didn't happen. Hopefully we get that, right? And I'm actually going to single out as my contested rounds candidate Raul Rosas Jr. against Ricky Turcios.
Because Ricky's going to fight that crazy, wild, weird style that he fought that one time when he first started.
You just never know what you're getting with Ricky Turcios. and they're at bantamweight. There's a lot of splits at bantamweight. I can see it happen.
All right, we'll be back again with this action-packed weekend on Monday.
I think we have to do all of them from both events, my friend. Buckle in.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Take care, y'all.